Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Advancement Centre, and welcome to the world of magic and miracles, where once again we elevate ourselves way beyond all sorts of limits to where we can communicate freely without even using words in a language that is not deciphered through the physical brain. It's deciphered somewhere, somehow within us, in our field, where we just know, we feel, we understand. And more, we're getting to the point where we don't even bother about understanding. It's an interaction that supports everyone, and an interaction that brings life into our physical world. The movement of all our fields, through some means or another, energizes each one of us without disturbing one thing. So now we get to the point where we don't even ask questions. We simply move with the flow and answer all the questions before they arrive. Logically, it sounds strange. But as we live, we advance further every minute, and we find that we can do things that we didn't think we were doing. Only because of our awareness do we now know that we were always doing miracles. We were always making our future come to us. And we're always able to look forward and back in a dynamic movement to understand our life now, previous lives, our lives in the future, if we're game enough to do it. And when I say game enough, it's because we have that little policeman inside us that says you can't do that. The one that grew from nothing into a fear-based anxiety within each one of us that now says we have to control ourselves to a level that is below any standard known to man. So it's easy to look at that from where we are now and smile as we see how tiny it really is. Smaller than a piece of sand, a grain of sand, I should say. And it has no power. So as we convince ourselves that we can control ourselves, we actually disregard the freedom that is actually part of our being. And therefore you wear yourself out by fighting against the freedom or against anything, whatever you can find. That's all gone. As we elevate ourselves to where we can be everywhere, we are also in that little place where we can speak to that little policeman and say, I love you. You don't have to do this anymore. And a big smile comes on the policeman or woman's face, and you get a big hug. So everything in your life, you can raise above or you can join. And everything that you think may be foolish is actually true. So join with it. If you need to modify it in any way, do it with a big hug. so that a smile appears even in the darkest corner. There is nothing to be hidden in any of the worlds, in any of the corners that are shadowed, because your light will show everything if you allow it to. You see in a young child when they're about to hide something from you, and you can smile and walk up and say, "It's all right, I understand." Or you can say, "Don't hide from me." But if you smile and say you understand, they'll stop hiding. Everything falls into place with that smile in your heart and that elevated feeling of total confidence, clarity, and certainty. And we've been shown the level of certainty that's available to us. And it's growing, and we can't do anything about it. Everything that we used to use as a framework to build a picture of our world or our life or our limited behavior is all falling to pieces. Everyone can see through. And they're not angry, as you think they might be. They smile with relief. Because it's a game. It's part of a little bit of mischief that was added to the world and made look much bigger than what it is. And as it disappears, it actually falls back into the size that it is. And it generates no power at all and no waste, because it is something that you have recreated into a different form. So once again, we don't have to get rid of anything. We can look at it, and it'll change. We can ignore it, it'll change. We can wipe it off that whiteboard, and it's gone. Or we can just look at it and say, "You're welcome." And it will fit into a perfect place with no strain or stress and no action on your behalf to hold anything away from your being. It's like when you're young, you go to a dance and everything's great until some person who's been aggressive towards you turns up, and the whole lot is spoiled. But in fact, if you'd have walked straight up to that person and greeted them, everything would have remained okay. So our practices are disappearing. We welcome everybody and everything, and it changes in our field. There's no thought, there's no planning. And any disturbance is just minor, like these flies. But we welcome everything for its purpose. And it will fall into place to show some characteristic that we need either in our life or in the world around us. We've got many, many aspects of our being starting to appear. Aspects that show our capability. And in the past, we were not able to live with those things because of the self-imposed rules that we made every day. You'll notice now that you don't make any more rules. You don't make up a new set of rules and a new game. You're enjoying the one that's here. And you're enjoying the fact that you can reach into the world of your creator and invite yourself in and walk in and be there and live there and have everything in all worlds and still be on earth. This is the most magnificent of all miracles. And it's only your awareness that stops you understanding that's where you are. We deliver to one another a beautiful thought or a beautiful feeling. And we forget that behind that is a transmission that remains forever, a vibration that adds to the field of the person you smiled at, a harmonic in their music, which gives it depth beyond your belief. So now, as you feel the vibration in your body, you can understand that it's actually happening and that your body is getting in tune with the universal signals and vibrations and creating harmonics. Not like the music we play, much deeper and much more presentable. It is exotic. And you'll start to notice that you might feel your body following the vibrations. Part of you might be moving at the same pace. You might be tapping your finger or just squeezing your hands, and they'll be in tune with something. As you notice, you'll feel a buzz. And that buzz is yours. It's your interaction, your magic, and your interface with the physical world. We often spoke about people who walk on hot coals. Many have done it, and they don't get burnt. And it's starting to be accepted that we have some quality that allows us to change that interface between our skin and the hot coals so that they don't burn. And the same in the cold. Kids who are used to the cold run around without a shirt on, and they're quite warm. Many other things in dancing and riding bikes and sailing and up in the clouds. You know what's happening. You know how to work the wind. You know how you're going to land if you jump on a bike in midair and you're upside down. Normally wouldn't have one idea of where you are. But for some reason, because we've expressed ourselves that way, we know exactly what we're doing. So logic has gone out the window, and our ability to change the interface with the physical world is actually us taking the restrictive parameters away from the world of science. There are so many conditions to each of the rules. To every action is an equal and opposite reaction. There's 4 pages of conditions that have to be met for that to be true. All the formulas have limits, or they have in a fixed world as their limiting factors. So now you change the parameters, you add to that in a world that has multiple dimensions. If you change dimensions at a critical time, then the rules don't apply. If you're going to run into a brick wall and you managed to change the direction of your run all of a sudden, you miss it. But in fact, it's possible, and it does happen, for you to change dimensions and you end up on the other side of the brick wall. You didn't go through it. Time disappeared. And that segment of what would have been your world disappears and you end up on the other side. Many close calls and accidents force us to do that. But now we're actually saying, get used to the fact that you can change the parameters. If you change the parameters, the laws don't happen. If you look past the fixed images that you've been taught, then there's much more. In teaching people how to read, they've come up with methods where they can just flick through the pages and they've got the whole story. They can read 10 books in a night. Depends on how fast they can flick the pages. And they can give you a better recall than if you read slowly. This is because that's our true nature. We can take in much more than what we're trained to take in. And it's all available to us through the universe. So if you dare to stretch yourself a little bit, you'll find you're taking off the handbrake. You're taking away the fixed parameters that say you can't. But remember, there's a little part of you that always says, I'll check this out before I take any notice. And it goes into that personal reception area of yours and gets thrown in the trash bin as ridiculous and impossible. So you never get to look at what's past that ridiculous and impossible filter. The ridiculous and impossible filter is only there because you were taught to put it there. So now, in that reception area of where you receive everything, have a second look. Start with looking at the possibility of it being true, that you can do more. After a while, you'll find that you start to realize that the freer you run and the more you accept as true, the easier it is. And you absorb so much more and you don't have to use any effort. So you just look at things and assume that they're going in. Don't use the memory system. And in fact, it's great to forget totally after you've read or you've spoken, because then it comes back through the system that it's supposed to come back through. That's the universal memory system that belongs to everyone. It's that one you call on every now and then, you say, well, what was that person's name? And you wait, and then you change the subject and it pops in. It's delivered. So this is what we're supposed to use. We're supposed to use the universal systems that totally support our being. And you'll feel it as you start to test it. You look to the future and you'll feel a buzz. You'll feel a response. You'll feel your body interacting. And you didn't have to fix anything. You just had to get used to the fact that when there's an opportunity, you don't throw it out. And that's not learning anything. That's knowing that you can look at more than what you're looking at. So as we develop further, we will start to know more than can be delivered to us with any Wikipedia or any system of computers. Because it's ours and always has been. They talk about Akashic records because they don't know what else to tell you. But in fact, you have all the records. Everything is available to you. If you want to pursue anything at all, you don't have to close your eyes, you leave them open. And you look towards it. And it will come to you in an instant. And then it will unfold at some time when it's most suitable for you. That's where all the stories come from. They appear in an instant, and it takes a year to write it down. You don't have to write things down. They emanate from you continuously. The stories, the feelings, the knowing of that little secret that says, I don't have to throw out the fact that I'm superhuman because I'm supposed to be superhuman because a human made up the definition of human, not the advanced being that we are. So we talk about truth, and there is no such thing because there is nothing that's ever a lie. It's always real to you unless you decide it's not to be real to someone else. So who's controlling that? You. Everything is at your fingertips. So you can turn what used to be deception into a revelation that excites everybody. You don't want someone to know that you've scratched your backside. You laugh about it. Everyone will be fine. You do all sorts of things with an open heart, and they appear differently. They appear natural and comforting in amongst the friends you have and the family that has arrived to say hello after many centuries, to keep you where you're supposed to be, in that special position of bringing your gifts into the physical world. So now that we've spoken about one of the simple gifts, and that is the ability to look into the future and watch it actually appear in your life, you can start to play with lots of other things to see if you know what is around the corner, to see if you can feel that what you're actually seeing when you get around the corner is not proof of what was there. Because at the time of observation, everything changes. So even though we can track things with cameras, that's still observing. We live in a world that formats itself for us. We live beyond all limitation because we can. And we don't have to fight against anything that says, I'll limit you. You just have to look at how small it is and wait for a half a second, and you will get from the universe the exact way to handle it. You look and you see. But you see with eyes that exist in your field, not with eyes that exist in your physical plane. You know one another so well that you can tell the slightest discomfort that someone has. Switch that around a little bit and know the level of comfort that they have, and you watch them glow. The problem with using the brain and the mind is it's there to find out what's wrong. It doesn't find out what's right. The special part of you that you brought into this world is the only part that knows what's right. Use that part. Use it all the time. And you don't have to do anything except transmit what it does and what it feels and how brilliant it is. The instant you look at somebody, you're actually reflecting what you've seen before you turned around. Everything is there at your fingertips. Know that it's not positive or negative, but there's another way. There's a way that you brought with you from your origin. And that way produces perfection all the time, under all circumstances, and does not allow anything in your field without it changing. And like a big magnet, if there's an opposition, the magnetic field pushes it away. You don't have to. So we don't need defense systems. We just need to have our own personal awareness that we're much more than what we're looking at. And know beyond a doubt the part of you that you brought into the physical world knows what's right, knows what feels best, reflects the grace of each person and uplifts their field to bring perfection into their life. And as we keep doing this, we keep talking about it, we'll find new things that we can actually experiment with. But the greatest of all miracles, remember, is you. And it doesn't need any proof. But occasionally, to get some proof really lifts your heart. We don't know what is going to happen, but as soon as it does, we say, I knew that. So somehow in there is a suppository of knowing that we keep saying we don't know. And it's in that reception center that says, I have to throw that away. That's ridiculous. I can't answer that. I can't possibly say I know what you're talking about when you're not talking. But in fact, you do. And you say, I can't possibly know what someone's thinking, but in fact you do. And it's all in that reception area that grabs everything that comes in before you can actually experience it. and throws it in the bin. So feel that massive delivery that happens every second of every day, and know that the slightest disturbance is to get your attention, to bring your awareness back to the physical world, and to know you live here. And once you live here, everything blossoms, just like the bird right now. So remember, for everyone, we wish you perfect life, perfect health, and a magic future. Thank you for listening.